All right. Round 2 of the podcast,
Deuces.
part 2. We're back in the studio. We had no technical difficulties today, which has been nice.
Today was a good day.
It does look like the mics are a tad bit loud, but I'll figure that out as we're working on it. Yours is great. Mine is like if I get remotely close here, people will freak. So I'll try to be back and remember that. But no, I'm so glad we're doing this. This is amazing. This is the first official podcast in the studio. I'd like to say that last one we did, which will be out, it was a podcast, but this will be way more in depth.
Yeah, we don't have any like time regulations. We can just kind of
we can get into 2 hours if we want to.
Yeah,
crazy. We'll see at the end of this. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll just jam.
But so you're something crazy that happened to me yesterday. I want to get this out of the way because it is a funny story.
Awesome.
Yesterday we went and picked up that couch, which you saw. We redid our whole room.
Yeah,
everything's
fantastic.
nice. It's amazing. Thank you. All props to Bella. None of it's me. I just had to go pick it up with the truck. And
Bless the ladies out there.
Yeah. It was funny on a quick tangent. It was funny too because she's like sending me couches and stuff, and I'm like, finally we sit down for like dinner one night, and she's like talking about like, what do we think about this one? This one. I go, Bella, I could be fine with nothing there. I mean, I would like a couch, but like whatever you artistically want to design, go for it.
You're gonna be happy.
And
if
just
it's soft and you can sit on it, you're
yes,
excited.
exactly. If I can, I was like, just get one I can lay on. Like that's it. That's all that matters. So it was funny. She's like, and she has all these ideas, and it's nice that she does run them by me as her roommate. But it is at the same time, I'm like, just I get one thing. Give me one thing. Like I can get a tapestry of like the palm trees remind me of Florida. Perfect. That's it. And you can take the rest. And then it got funny too. Is like we were sitting there one night, late at night, like just sending things back and forth. And I finally was like, I'm just gonna have some fun with this. And I started sending like just absurd things. Like I was like, what if we get a mini fridge? Like, and we just put it instead of a side table, we just get a mini fridge. And she was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, come on, it'd be perfect. We don't have to get up for drinks. Like I'm just like throwing things. And I sent her like a stuffed antelope head, like to mount on the wall. And I was
But
like,
you're like trying to razz her a little bit. You're trying to push them. It's like, oh, what can I take this?
She finally got it after like the antelope. Like I sent like 3 or 4, and then I was like, I'm just fucking around. Like I just wanted to like I don't actually want an antelope head in our apartment. And no hate to those who do, but just it's odd to be in an apartment.
For sure.
But anyways, so back to my story. Yesterday we go to get the couch, we come back. There's only one elevator working in the building. So we had to pull around and we go to where the private side is. The private reserve is parking. The people with money. And there's a open spot, and it was handicapped, to be completely honest. And we pulled in to just unload the couch. Literally bring it upstairs to the one elevator that's working.
Just a little convenience. Not trying to cause any problems.
Not trying to cause any problems. Which you can already tell it's causing a problem.
That's just how it works.
So we unload the truck, and
Space is open for 2 months, but you go to use it for 15 minutes.
Literally, when I tell you this, I was like, I cannot believe this is going on. So we unload the truck, we unload the couch, we take it up the elevator, we put it in the apartment. We don't even set it up. We just go, let's go back down and move the car. It's been no more than 10 minutes. No more than 10 minutes. We come back out, someone with a handicap sticker, again, rightfully so, I get it, you're not happy, parked in front of the truck.
Oh yeah, making a statement.
And
I want to find out who you are.
Yeah, and then we were like, I was like, well, I was about to move it, but now I can't. So, I asked a few people around, like, hey, do you know who lives here? Like, I'm just unloading this couch, like, I'm not trying to cause trouble here.
Of course not.
So then finally I'm like, I'll just leave him a note and whatever. And so I leave him a note, and I just put on the note, pure and simple. I go, hey, we were just unloading a couch because all the other elevators were broken except this one. Came back down to move the car, can't. So just give me a call. I'll come move it. No problem. Well, they never call me. And I go back down like 3 hours later. Their car's moved. They've parked in the back somewhere. So they obviously got my note.
Yeah.
And they just didn't want to call. And it was just like, me and Bella were just like, why would they not call me? They could have had their spot like, like obviously. And in my head, I'm like, they probably, because this is what happened to me, right? Karma kind of comes for you. You get super angry at first because you're like, who the fuck is parking here?
Well, because and we're all guilty of this, right? Like, it's a natural human condition that you think about yourself only.
Yeah.
And what you have and what you got going on. And you don't take the space to think like, okay, there's someone parked here, like they don't have a handicap sticker. So yeah, that might trigger you.
Yeah.
But like, can you separate a little bit from your emotions and be like, maybe they're just going up to drop something off real quick and I'll just chill. But instead, you're like,
Yeah, just
ego's like, sweet, I've been waiting to come out, you know, like, let's get into it. And then you're just full blown going 10. And when you go in 10, you know, as they say, when there's no room for love when you're looking for like vindication.
Mm-hmm. It's good. That's a good one.
Yeah.
No room for love when you're looking for vindication.
No, it's not.
Yeah, and it's way more. I mean, it's way more difficult. I was gonna I almost tweeted this the other day, and I still should, but it was like my thought process was it's very easy to hate, but much harder to love. But the reason I didn't put that out there is because I started to think about it a bit more, and I'm like, is that the case though? I think it's harder to start love, and let me expand on that thought as to why I said why I paused on not posting that. Because
good for you, by the way,
I think
for creating space,
yeah,
and thinking about something before you post it.
Thank you.
You know, because I think what you're getting at, but I'm gonna let you keep going. I just jumped in here, but you know, that's what we do. The difference between reacting and responding.
Yeah.
And I think when you react, you tend to be more lower vibrational, more
100%.
angry. When you respond, you tend to be more higher vibrational, and you think, okay, what if this isn't about me? Mm-hmm. How can I be of service to something else? Yes. And usually that comes from a place of love.
100%. I think that's the perfect example, like in relationships. I think that's the ideal. What you want to do is like almost, again, knee-jerk reaction, especially when you're younger. Like you just kind of want to like immediately defend yourself. Like you're like, what the fuck? Like, so as you get older though, you find someone you're super into and you love them and you want to make this work, you kind of want to start that practice. And you kind of, again, you just go through this as you go through relationships, but like you detach yourself for a moment and you're like, wait, do I love this person? Is this worth arguing for? Is this, is it worth, and anyways, but yes, I agree. It comes from a place of love. And I totally lost my train of thought, but,
talking about that tweet.
Oh, back to the tweet. Yeah, we'll just go there. There was something I was going to say on top of what I just said, but
it's easier to act in anger than act in love.
Yes, and I do think there's some gravity to that, some weight to that, 100%. But I think once you start living in love more and living in that fruitfulness era of your life, it actually is the reverse. It's like you really have to get like pushed to get to that point. And can be good or bad. But what I mean by that is like you're living with so much good energy and love that like the negative stuff that maybe life throws at you that you would have gotten mad at previously kind of just bounces off. Like it really has to be something substantial.
Yeah, because you get to a point in life where you're like, dang, like life is short. And, getting mad at someone or being angry is like drinking poison. That you've probably heard this before. Drinking poison, hoping they die. That's what getting angry is. Like me getting angry at you doesn't affect you at all. I'm the one suffering by getting angry. I'm the one having my 100%. Cortisol spiking through the roof.
Yeah.
So it's just nonsensical. And eventually you get to a point in life when you're just like, man, like you finally realize I get to decide every day if I'm happy or depressed, angry or loving. And you realize at some point that life is short and you're just like, you're giving your power away when you get angry. Mm-hmm. And once you learn that, it's so much harder for people to push you off your square. Because you're just like, no, I'm in control of me. And like, could I get mad at that? Yeah, for sure. But like, how does that benefit me? It's never going to. Yeah. Unless you're in like an actual physical confrontation, you have to protect yourself and your well-being, then like, yeah, man, let that tiger out. But other than that, it's like, it's a zero-sum game. It's lose-lose.
Agreed. Yeah, almost 100% of the time that the anger never ends up working the way you intend it to work or think that it's going to work. Yeah. If anything, it makes the situation like a lot more worse. I've looking back, I don't think I've ever had moments where I get super angry and then it blows up in my face even more. I've always tried to like take that step back and be like, I am mad. That's a rightful,
for sure.
That's something to really hit on too, is like, that is a rightful emotion to have.
Absolutely.
But it's how you display that and let it control you, which is kind of what you were hinting at. And that's where that, you know, things can get hairy, is that like if you let it take over and then you blow up and now you're making it worse for everybody here, then it's a problem. You know,
It's a smoke alarm. Your body's telling you like something here, one of my values or one of my boundaries, or there's something that is being violated right now. And that's not okay.
Right.
So like that's great in that sense. But it's just a warning sign. So then it's like, how can we learn to say, okay, what values or what boundaries are being broken, and how am I going to respond to that to now minimize and stop this anger? And like, cool, you gave me the message. Awesome, I appreciate you. You know, the security alarm went off, but now I'm going to deactivate it.
Right.
I'm not going to have it like start pulling all like the safety, you know, the attack features out.
Yeah.
Like deactivate, and then like now let's work on like solving the problem and fixing it, because we don't want to stay here in this space.
No, definitely not. Do you think as you get to know yourself more that you become inherently less angry, or there's less triggers maybe?
I wouldn't say so first off, I'm gonna say there's no absolutes in life.
That's fair.
You know,
Yeah.
I think you become more understanding that when you are triggered, it's not about the other person. It's
Okay.
about me. So you get less offended by it, and you get less defensive. And you start to realize that when I get triggered by someone, that's an opportunity for me to look inward and say, what about this bothers me? What about this is maybe true within myself? And that's why I'm sensitive to it.
That's fair. Yeah.
I think anger is a very natural thing, but it's like you just learn how to deal with it and process it differently. And I do think as you grow about yourself and you learn and you value love over being right or over any kind of justification or validation, it's more about your peace of mind, the peace of your heart, not trying to carry anything with you, because as you get older, I'm 39, like shit stacks up.
Right.
And you just don't want to carry anymore. You know, you just kind of like, I don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
And it's more of like an act of self-love and self-respect. Just be like, okay, that bothered me, but instead of me trying to prove you wrong or get the last word in, like, you know what? I'm just going to step away, because what's most important is me getting back to my peace. You still do get angry, but it just gets shifted a little bit. And I think also in times that you do get angry and you do lash out and you do hurt people, and we're all loving people, no one enjoys the consequences of those actions.
No, I think
You want to avoid that, like no matter what. Like I'd rather you think I'm wrong, or I'd rather you think you're right and me just like disengage, than to me sit there and make this pot boil over even more,
right.
just to prove a point. And it's like I just don't want to take it from a 5 to an 11. I just don't have time for it anymore in my life.
Right.
Does it happen? Of course, you know, I'll leave that to like my real close friends, or like people that like, if I do get pushed off my square, like I know they're going to be understanding, or they're going to check me in a loving way.
Yeah.
You know, but at the end of the day, it's just about peace and really wanting to stay there. So you still have to deal with it though. You just find healthier ways.
Right? And I think that's something we all learn, is like dealing with the pain of the daily life, and this, or not even the daily life, but just like this thing we call life. Because again, there's ups and downs. Pain is kind of a thing that's going to come, and you can try to mitigate it, but you can't control it. You just can't.
No one gets immunity either.
No one gets immunity.
It is what it is. Like you're going to have to deal with it, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And and those struggles are different per person, per situation, but we can all
like depending
relate
on
to
your
that.
trauma and what you've been through in life, like everyone's going to have different tests. You know, I had a very rough childhood. Now, that's not to say that it was bad, but it was challenging, but it was everything I needed to become the man that I am today. And like I definitely had anger issues when I was a child, and there were reasons for that. There was trauma that led to that.
Mm-hmm.
There were environments that were very toxic and unhealthy for me, and I didn't know how to control my emotions or regulate my feelings. And so I take it as a blessing that I had to learn that at an early age. Some people don't. They had to learn it later on, you know? But at the end of the day, it just comes down to a choice of like, do I want to hurt anybody? Do I want to continue to hurt myself? And hopefully you get to a place where that answer is no. And you take some self accountability, responsibility for your actions because they are yours.
Yeah.
And you just change. You know, you don't, like I said, you don't care about being right. You don't care about proving someone wrong. You want to have as much love and peace in your life as possible.
Yeah, you kind of hit that on the head there, and I think it starts with what you briefly went by it, but like that accountability.
Accountability is huge.
That's the first.
Accountability and grace. That's the important part. Grace is most important because we're gonna fuck up. Okay. We're human. You must be accountable, but like try to minimize how much you beat yourself up. Like, hey, shitty thing you did. Fact. Move forward. Become better. What did you do wrong? How can you do better? If that situation happens again, how are you going to respond? Like, work it out. Yeah. And then like own it and never forget it. You know, find the lesson and the blessing.
Lesson and the blessing?
Lesson and the blessing.
Name of the podcast right there. But to go back on that accountability, I would love to hit on that because that's something that's been a relatively theme I've talked about here on the podcast before and stuff, because I think that's a big thing that a lot of people tend to lack, and it's something that they have to grow into, of course, like we've said, but like that accountability is the number one thing I think that one sets you up for success, whether it's mentally, physically, or what we're talking about in an emotional sense and growing as a person. It starts with you as the individual going, I want to make the change, and I'm going to kind of be more accountable to making that change happen. Because otherwise, without it, I totally agree with the grace thing. That's something I personally have to practice, is being more grace. I can get really down and hard on myself. That's something which, I'm
a professional. Right. At punishing myself for doing something stupid and making a bad choice.
Yeah, I can almost linger on the thought of like, why did I do that longer than the actual, like, the actual situation. Or like,
I'll even take someone else's faults and I will just be like, sure, I'm a piece of shit. So like, I'll carry that too. Like, I'm so accountable that I over-identify sometimes with accountability, and I'll even take on more than I should. And that's a big part of where I'm learning to grow, is like, okay, own your part, but don't own an inch more, because that's just not fair to anyone.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's a very valid point. I'm looking back and thinking on my stuff right now. Then, like I said, I tend to take that accountability at heart. I've always been like that. I think it's just something that's been installed with like growing up. It's like you're the one in charge of your life. So like if you're messing up, odds are, granted, there's some offshoot situations. Always. But generally speaking, like if you wanted to get ahead and you're not getting ahead, probably because you're not trying, or I don't know. And again, I'm generalizing here, but
what's the common denominator here?
Correct.
To a degree.
Of course.
Also, sometimes you just get dealt the cards you get dealt with.
100%.
And you just are in situations that you are, and guess what? Life's not fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, period. Shitty things are going to happen that aren't fair.
Yeah. But
there's nothing you can do about it, because all you can really control is yourself and how you react and how you respond to things.
Yeah.
And
the battle there might be more of an uphill battle for you to get out, especially if the cards are dealt against you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not impossible.
It never
is.
And no matter how shitty things are for you, I guarantee you can find a lot of people out there that have it way harder. And that's not to minimize what you're going through.
Yeah.
It's just let it be a little bit of a stepping stool to get you back on your feet, and to practice gratitude.
Right.
And to be appreciative of what you do have, and to shift the focus of what you're not receiving. Like, yes, you want this. Yes, you may think you deserve this, but maybe you're not getting it. Instead of just getting super upset and down about it, your feelings are valid, but look at what you do have as well. Don't negate that, and be grateful for what you do have, and find a way to make that a blessing for you. Because if not, you're just going to be constantly
chasing, keeping up with the Joneses, as they say.
Yeah, right? And I don't think we always know what we want. You know, it's such a fickle thing, life, thinking you deserve this or deserve that. But in my 39 years of being on this planet, there are many things that didn't work out for me that I really wanted and I thought was best for me. And I didn't get it, and I was just like, poor freaking me. You know, or why not? What the heck?
Yeah.
But then 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, it put me on the path to a much bigger and better blessing. Because I only can live right now. I don't know what's to come. And, you know, sometimes the things that we don't get in life turn out to be the biggest blessings ever, because we're being prepared, we're being driven, we're being guided to something better that isn't even in our periphery. It's not even in our like scope of vision. It's out of it. We can't even see it because we're so focused, we're so into it.
Right.
And so a lot of times I think it's okay to have dreams and hopes and wishes and desires, but I always try to maintain a position of like, I really have no freaking clue what's best for me. I have a little idea, but like there's something greater, there's something bigger out there. There just has to be, that knows better than I do. So look at every situation, good or bad, as something that's working to better myself.
Right.
There's a lesson to be learned here, and I'm blessed to learn that lesson if I can. If I don't, I'm going to keep going around the mountain until I do learn it.
Yeah.
But it is for me. It's not happening to me, it's happening for me. And that's a really hard position to be in sometimes, especially if like you really think you found something. But like I said, the older I get, the more I have evidence that it always works out. It always turns out better if you take the time to look at the lessons, to look at yourself, to have some autonomy, and to really try to say, okay, what was my part here? Where did I mess up? Where can I grow? How can I be better? How can I be more loving? How can I be more accountable? How can I listen more? How can I take care of my body better? How can I take care of my partner better? How can I show up for them better? You know, it's not about finding the right partner. It's about being the right partner.
Right.
You know, and that can be for friendships, family relationships, romantic relationships, work relationships.
Yeah.
You know, I truly do believe that we are here to be in service of others. I am not here to satisfy Christopher's needs and wants. It's not why I'm here. I'm here to help other people. And I have to constantly remind myself that.
It's on that note too, it's very important to, I actually, for starters, I want to say I absolutely agree with that. I'm very much on a try to do the most I can for others. I think that's a very good way to live by. It is important to also learn and recognize when you're getting taken advantage of.
Oh, watch those energy vampires, baby.
Yeah.
Takers are going to take as long as you're given.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Because that could be something, maybe you run into this in your life, because I know I have.
People sucking the energy out of me.
People sucking the energy out of you, or
yeah.
taking advantage of your kindness. And
Oh, yeah.
the first couple times you encounter it, you almost have that, like, you kind of get angry at it, like you get a little frustrated, like because you're not wired that way. And that's something I've had to learn through my time of, like, you know, not everyone is the same as me, and I know that at a broad sense, but like when it comes to being like kind and everything, you're like, not everyone has that same value, or they don't do as much as me, and some are more takers, and it's fine, that's them, as long as they're not doing it in a malicious manner. But you, as the giver, have to be very perceptive of that and go, I still love this person, but they're way more of a taker than they are a giver, and I gotta just be cautious with this, because they won't notice. You know, that's what I'm saying when I say be cautious with this, because they might not notice, and
Well, then
it's
you
nothing
have
against
to-
them inherently, but like you gotta just maintain that relationship, or drop them off if that's, you know, the way you want to go about things.
And I would preface that though with, depending who this person is in your life, how hard are you trying at being radically vulnerable to communicate with them what they're doing? Because we don't know what we don't know. And I mean, I could potentially, from sitting right here, if you had bad breath, I could potentially smell your bad breath from here. But like if I had bad breath, look how far away my mouth is, my nose. I couldn't tell. I
Yeah.
had no clue that I had bad breath, and it's a half an inch. It's an inch, right? Like, so sometimes we're just oblivious, not because we want to be. We just are because we just can't see it.
Yes.
It's just it hasn't been shown to us yet, and for a long time in life, if someone, when I was finally ready to give something up, I would drop you like a bad habit. See you later. And in one hand, I'm proud I can do that because it protects me. But on the other hand, too, like that's kind of a toxic thing too. Like you really shouldn't. Sometimes you have to set a hard boundary.
Right.
But if that's your go-to right away, I would encourage you to anyone
Yeah.
to kind of rethink that a little bit, you know, because everyone deserves
Their fair shot.
their fair shot. And some people are just ignorant, they just don't know. And so I always try to preface everything with like, okay, how can I take space and think, okay, how am I going to respond to this if they are an energy sucker, or if they do take and they're not doing their fair share? How can I, as lovingly as possible, with radical accountability and vulnerability, have a conversation with you first and see how receptive you're going to be to this? And then once I've had that conversation, can I maintain a position where I watch and I listen and I see if you're going to take some of that energy and try to be receptive to it and be considerate of my needs? And who knows, that may spark conversation where they show you something that you didn't know how you were being,
Right.
you know, and then you can get to know each other better and grow. But so often we just want to be like, you're not meeting this need, so like, cool PC, you kick rocks.
Yeah.
And typically when that happens, I don't believe that's coming from a place of love. I think you've allowed yourself to get so drained that you're ready to just throw the towel in. So on another note, how can I recognize when I'm being siphoned dry?
Right.
Before my tank is empty,
Yes.
before my battery is drained, and I have more energy to be compassionate and loving, and I can come to you in compassion and love and try to have that conversation. Now, if you can do that, awesome, and they're still just not being receptive, then yeah, you can just create distance and create space and just understand, you know, accept people for who they are. Don't try to squeeze water out of a rock. Know who you're dealing with. If you know they're kind of an energy sucker or they're a taker, then just like address them and treat them differently. Like, don't just play the idiot every time.
Yeah.
Like, know who you're dealing with.
100%.
You know?
Yeah, 100%. I wanted to circle back briefly because you said it took you time with the things you had grown up with and experienced to really make that switch. And was what I'm curious on, was there a pivotal moment where you were like, I got to make this switch, or things are going to go downhill? Was there a, you know, was there an event that happened, or was it more of just a realization you came to over time? And if it's too deep to go to, by all means, we can pivot to another thing. I don't want to make you go. This is not something you have to get super open on this platform. But I was curious about that because the way you worded it made me immediately inquire. I wonder if there was.
There's been several.
There's been several. Okay.
There's been several, not just one. You know, life is this wave that you're surfing.
Yeah.
You know, and
when they say go with the flow, they really mean it.
They really
life
mean
has
it.
its ups and downs.
And guess what?
And you got to be right there in the middle.
That wave is going to toss you off your board and slam you into the reef.
Yeah.
And pain is the greatest teacher. And
unfortunately or fortunately. Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure if it's unfortunate because
Well,
you really learn. And
you do.
Rock bottom, everyone has a different rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times in life, and this is something that I'm still trying to hone and to get better at, is how can I reflect and grow before I hit rock bottom? But nonetheless, believe it, change comes when you hit rock bottom. Change comes when you don't even want to be here anymore.
Right.
You don't want to live anymore. And I would say my life has been a very long series of suffering. And that does not make me special. No one gets immunity from suffering. Life is suffering. It's not just suffering. And I guess to answer this question, because dealing with anger, dealing with depression, dealing with suicidal thoughts, dealing with a lack of confidence, and dealing with feeling completely worthless is a lot to handle. You gotta kind of start at the beginning. And this is a heavy subject, but it's not one that I'm afraid to express, because I've come to a place where like I own my life and who I am. And I'm so proud of it, because it made me the man I am today. And the reason why I am who I am, despite the mistakes that I've still made and trying to grow from, it all comes from pain and suffering. And I guess I signed up for this for whatever reason before I got here. I'm like, yeah, that looks like, let's just do that. That's the mission, right? And you know, you'll hear it said, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but your mess is your message. Your past is your purpose. And your that becomes your offering to the world. That becomes your gift you can share. And you know, I tried to kill myself when I was 7 years old. That's crazy, right? Why would a kid try to kill himself? 7 years old. Like, how would you even know how to kill yourself? How would you even understand what that is? I swallowed a whole bottle of medication. And, you know, I had forgotten this thought until like a week ago after my skydiving accident. It's funny how sometimes a trauma can unlock a deeper trauma to help you heal.
Yeah.
And it unlocked this memory of me being 7 and for whatever reason being super upset and emotional. I just decided to swallow a bottle of pills and lock myself in the bathroom. And thank God, you know, shout out to mom. She fucking broke the door down. And she's like, what's going on in here? You know, and saw the empty bottle and was basically like shoving her fingers down my throat and I puke, you know, right there in the bathroom. And I was really confused by that. I was like, why would a child do that? Because I was sexually abused from the ages of 10 to 14 by an older male relative in my family. And I thought that's where my trauma started. I thought that's where my anger started. I thought that's where my brokenness started. But now I have this memory of being 7 and trying to kill myself.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, it goes deeper than that. Awesome. Let's dig in. Just text my therapist. Hey, you got time? We got to talk. You know, like I'm ready. And I couldn't figure it out. And my therapist is also my mother's therapist. I am the only boy. I have 3 older sisters. So like my girls are my life. They're my everything. You know, that's why I'm kind of more a feminine energy guy than a masculine. My dad's super masculine, you know, so I do have that balance and representation. But I'm very comfortable in the feminine. So much so that I have to constantly like check myself a little bit and be like, okay, you're getting a little emotional, you're feeling a little powerless. So like, I think we need to we're kind of swinging too much into that. So like, let's get back into our masculine, brother. Let's get back to balance. But in today's world, where there's a lot of men that are not connected to their emotions and empathy, and they're in more of the doing and less of the feeling, I am very, very proud to be the man that I am, and to have these amazing women in my life that have taught me so much. If it wasn't for my mother pouring her love into me, I would be a very angry, aggressive, probably abusive person, because I had a lot of reasons to be fucking mad at the world. And I witnessed a lot of toxicity at that young age. And I got talking to my therapist, Miss Darcy, and she also sees my mother. She's been seeing my mother for like 15 years or so. Me and my mom tell each other everything, you know, and there's nothing to hide from each other. And so Darcy was able to cue me in on some things that I may have witnessed or seen when I was younger that I don't really remember. And all of a sudden, these memories just started flowing back. And then I was like, my entire life, I felt broken. Like, I am not good enough for love. I don't deserve love. The world is not going to be a better place by me being here. I could fucking go shoot myself tomorrow and it wouldn't matter. Yeah, some people are going to be sad, but like, big deal. I'm just another clog and another wheel in the clog, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just broken. But then I gained some information that made me not feel so broken. And I gained some understanding of things that happened to me that my young self, that maybe is what made me so angry, made me not want to be here. And then you stack that on top of my sexual abuse for 4 years as a little boy, being exposed to intimacy, bound to cortisol and stress.
Mm-hmm.
That did a fucking number on me.
Right.
So, you know, I was confused about my sexuality because I had been forced upon by a man, done things that, you know, I hadn't even been with a woman yet. I was 10 years old, 10 to 14, you know? And so that was super confusing while I'm going through puberty and adolescence. On top of that, I have all this anger and confusion in me, you know, bullied all through middle school, all through high school. Never really feeling like I'm worthy of anything. Eventually, you know, like, I was this really short, fat kid, you know, which is, I'm like 6'3" now, like 170 pounds,
Right.
like pretty good looking, pretty chiseled. And like, I was definitely a late bloomer. You know, I like senior year in high school, I just like started growing and stretching, started getting some confidence, started getting attention from girls, started dating, started having some fun, started making a lot of mistakes. I'm like, man, like, why is this never working? Why am I angry? Why every time a relationship is about to fail, I go fuck someone? Like, I'm not a cheater. I'm not like it's always like the last, like, when like things are just getting out of control and like it's like the last month or the last week before we like break up, I go and screw someone, you know, and then feel guilty about it. Or every time I would hook up with somebody that was mutual and consensual, the next morning I wake up, I felt so guilty.
Yeah.
And I had to discover that I had a very toxic coping mechanism with intimacy, with sex. And anytime that I felt stressed out or anytime I felt like I was in a situation that I couldn't control, I would use intimacy and sex to regain my power back. I'm going to go have sex with this person and it's my choice. It's not being taken from me. And that caused a lot of problems in my life. And I hurt people. And I was hurting. And you get to a point where you like really look at that part of your soul and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm a good person.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt anybody anymore. And so you start holding the mirror up really strong. You start going to therapy. Like, no one knew about my sexual abuse until like 2-3 years ago. I told my sister Stephanie. And that was after I talked to my therapist about it for 2 years.
Yeah.
My parents didn't find out till like a year ago. Because I was just like, oh man, they're going to take it so personal. It's not their fault.
Right.
And so it's been a lot. And then through that, you know, being ADHD, being pumped full of medication at a very young age, robbing me of my youth, sexual abuse robbing me of my youth and my innocence, you know, intimacy and stress and cortisol being bound together, learning about toxic coping mechanisms, finding out why I'm really angry. You just eventually, you're like, enough's enough.
Yeah.
And I'm the problem and I'm going to fix this and I'm not going to blame anyone else anymore because I want to be better.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be this loving person. I was attacked. I was bullied. I was molested. Typically how it goes is you either become an extension of that and then hurt people, abusers become abusive. And there's kind of two decisions I have found in my research and talking to other people who have been abused. It's like it either gets extended down through you or you say never again, not to anybody again.
Yeah.
And that's the position I always took. Like, never again. Like, I will be a protector. That's why I'm here on this earth, is I will protect people, even if it's at the cost of my own life. And that mess became my message. My past became my purpose. And I have just wanted to heal and very openly talk about this because I'm not the only one this has happened to.
Right.
And trauma is trauma no matter what it looks like. Trauma can be very, very different, mental, physical, all that. And so it just all caught up with me. And being depressed my whole life, being suicidal my whole life, wanting to die, but not wanting to die, I finally, the first pivotal moment I remember is when Anthony Bourdain died. And this was in like 2015 or 16, I think.
Interesting.
You know, he was a drug addict and then found his cooking and got sober and did amazing, became an amazing chef, had a TV show, all that. And then at like 50 years old, he found himself OD in a bathroom in Paris. And I was like, fuck, dude, like this dude rose above his demons, became super successful, and he still lost his battle. And like, I didn't think I was going to make it to 40. I knew I wasn't going to make it to 50. And that scared the shit out of me because I had so much respect for him. And so I was driving home from work that day. I was working downtown Detroit, and I was in my car again, crying, having a depressive episode. And for the first time ever, I was really soft with myself. And I was like, you know what, Christopher, like, we're done with this. I don't want to die. I want to get married. I want to have a family. I want to help other people. This is going to take a long time, but starting today, it's okay if I get depressed and have these feelings and thoughts. We're going to feel them, but then we're going to love ourselves.
Yeah.
We're going to say it's okay. Like we're doing okay. I'm going to work at it every day. And that means that every time when I want to get depressed, I'm going to let myself feel it for 10, 15 minutes. But then I'm going to turn the switch. I'm going to love myself. And I did that for 5, 6, 7 years. And slowly the episodes starting having more and more space in between them. I started feeling a little bit better. I started having some autonomy in practicing. How can I be active? How can I change my life? How can I be my own hero and stop waiting to be saved? And it took a long time. And I just started chipping away at it. And then eventually, like a whole year went by and I didn't have a single depressive episode, you know, or something would bother me and I wouldn't react to it. I wasn't getting angry anymore because I was letting my feelings be heard. I was putting my arm around my shadow and being like, dude, you're just as important as I am. I need you. I need my darkness with my light.
Right.
We need to have each other. I'm not going to hide you in the closet like fucking Harry Potter, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, which most of us do. We push it down.
We push it down and it just wants to be heard.
Yeah.
And so I just let it speak until it gets exhausted. And I do it through going and being active. We were talking about this earlier. Like if I'm feeling emotional, I'm going to go for a hike so that way I can let the energy flow. My mind can sit there and chatter. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Just dude, wear yourself out like a toddler. Wear yourself out until you pass out, you know?
Literally.
And then after that, I can be soft with myself. And that took getting my eating habits in check, getting my physical activity in check, being my own advocate, loving myself, loving the parts of me that I fucking hate, and just understanding that I need to experience this and I need to love myself. I need to learn how to love myself. And of course, there was like little triggers that kept happening as I grew through my 20s and into my 30s. And a lot of them were matters of the heart and relationships where I really didn't show up like I needed to. And I really wounded myself because the soul or intuition, whatever you want to call it, it will always talk to you.
Yeah.
But
100%.
it's always going to be a whisper.
Yeah.
It's never going to shout. It's never going to yell. So how can I quiet my mind? Not let my mind get so noisy that I can't hear the whisper of my soul, because it will always tell you what you're supposed to do and guide you on what you're not supposed to do, but it's going to always whisper. So how can I maintain a mental state of peace? How can I be physically fit, mentally stable, and like spiritually sound to hear that whisper and to learn how to listen to it so I can mitigate unnecessary suffering in my life and unnecessary suffering to other people. And I am a huge lover, but I've made mistakes. And and that's okay. I give myself accountability. Hey, bro, what the heck?
Right.
Grace, what are we learning from here? How are we going to get better?
Yes, 100%.
So we can keep growing and becoming a better person. And that's why I'm here on this planet. I'm not here to get everything I want. I'm not here to have the love of my life. I'm not here to be rich. or to be famous. I'm here to become a better person every day. And if I can turn around and help anyone up the ladder and make their life a little easier, give them some wisdom so they don't have to go around that mountain 10 times, only got to go around it once before they get off on the right exit. That's why I'm here. I'm here for my soul and this meat suit here to be better every day. That's the core of why I'm here. And you have to be patient with yourself. You may be in the trenches for 8-9 months over certain things that have happened to you.
Yeah.
But it will get better. Just try not to hurt yourself. Try to make it through the darkness. I know that sun is getting you right now.
It looks absolutely horrible on camera. I look like just a white bean. I'm albino right now. And I feel the whole time.
Embrace it, brother.
I am listening to you, but this whole time too, I'm like, whoever's watching this on video, it's gonna be atrocious. Like,
okay, just focus on me right now.
Yeah. We might literally just make it a one camera show.
Yeah, for that one.
It doesn't do this, but yeah, I wonder if I can like scoot into the darkness.
Hey, there you go. Embrace the darkness. That's what we're talking about.
Way back here, which isn't horrible. But
yeah,
I feel so far from you now.
Yeah,
right in there.
It's okay.
But I'm screaming into the mic now too. Who knew that? You said a ton of valuable things there, so
that was long-winded.
No, it's fine, and I was letting you go on those tangents not tangents, but I was letting you go through that because that's very important.
I want people to know that pain knows pain.
Yes,
and you're not alone.
Yeah, and someone who very much probably will relate to a lot of what you
and like. It's okay. You can make it out of this.
Yeah.
Focus on love. Take accountability for your actions. Take accountability for how you've hurt people and how you've hurt yourself. And just come back to love, please. Just please come back to love. And you can't undo what's been done, but you can try not to do it again.
Yeah, 100%. It's
failure. First attempt at learning.
That's good. I've heard that before. I always forget it. I love that. A couple things again. It was one with what you just said about coming back to love. It's very, very important, and that's something I personally that hits for me is like coming back to love, because I can speak to myself. There was a time period not so long ago where I wasn't living that life. I was saying I was, and I will also say that a lot of my actions represented that, but mentally and emotionally, it wasn't coming out. And that's, something I've had to really work on and I'm still working on. But what I would really like
it's a lifelong practice, brother.
Well, yes. But I just had stored it away.
Yeah.
Pushed it away because of fear of being hurt again, fear of having that pain again. And something that's funny with fear, which again I think is just something most people.
So you know how fear can have two meanings? Fear can be great, now I space on it.
Well, perfect, because I want to finish this thought because I was almost going to cut you off anyways. So
perfect.
Something I think that's interesting with fear, and it's very easy to live a fear-based life where you're living in fear. But what I don't think a lot of us realize, and most of us have to go through the process to realize it, and hopefully this hits home for somebody, and hopefully someone can hear this. Your fears 100% of the time become a reality. Meaning the thing you fear most is what you're inevitably creating by trying not to create.
You're focusing on it.
Because you're focusing on it. And so that's funny. I don't know why I never figured that out until just now that part clicked of like, that's why it came.
Where your attention goes, energy flows, baby.
Right. So if you are having those fears in life, it's better to focus on what you're trying to do. Almost like you need that tunnel vision. Like when someone's creating a business and like people are telling them like, you're going to fail. You're like, Steve Jobs, not Steve Jobs. Yeah, I guess he's a good example. Bill Gates, sure. All of them with their big companies, like there was people that probably told them they're going to fail.
Always,
100% of the time.
Always.
And they just had this like tunnel vision of like, I'm going to
Don't care.
Don't care. Doing it.
I'm focusing in. You're in my peripheral. If you're not here to help me, then see ya.
Yeah.
This is what I want. There's no plan B.
Yep.
There's only this one.
Yep.
So it has to work.
Yes. And I think there's something to that, because you're not giving in to fear. You're just focusing on the goal. But again, going back to that was a beautiful tangent, because that was perfectly encompassing and it gave a good example for people to really conceptualize that. But 100% of the fears, your fears become your reality. And that's something I've learned learned recently. And I guess, again, you kind of hear that, and you hear it in movies and like stuff like that, and you're like, yeah, I guess. Then like, when you live it, like I can look back and I'm like, oh, yeah, I was scared of like XYZ, and then guess what happened? Like XYZ.
Yeah,
happened.
you bring it to fruition.
And usually it happens. You bring it to fruition, and it doesn't necessarily happen in the way you're probably like picturing too.
Never
but
does.
It comes right, because it still kind of like comes out of nowhere. You're like, oh my god, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
But like, like where did this come from? Oh, I
right.
manifested this
Yeah,
by accident.
great.
I used my manifestation the opposite way.
Yeah.
Too. And that's when we can inflict a lot of our self pain by living in fear. And when you're living with that love and purpose and finding yourself
when fear really again is low vibrational,
yes.
like we want to try to avoid that as much as possible.
I've told people this. I have not talked about it on here, but I've told people this in conversation in the past couple months. When I admitted what I was scared of out loud to the person I was scared of,
yeah,
it was the craziest weight lifted off of my shoulders.
Yeah.
I think I honestly probably ever experienced in my life up to this point. I'm only 26-year-old. I got some life to live. But for real, it was like a very moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it.
And it probably wasn't as bad as what you thought.
No.
And were you received?
I think so.
Yeah.
Good question. Don't know.
Like, did it mitigate that fear? Did it dial it down for you?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, fear, you have forget everything and run, or face everything and rise.
Yeah.
You can think of it in two ways.
The latter there is way better.
Yeah, for sure.
Because here's the thing is, you can't outrun that fear.
No.
That fear is a Bengal tiger in the jungle. You can only hide for so long.
Bengal tiger. Oh man,
it's
that
coming.
hit.
It's coming for
you.
Yeah. It's pitch black, and the tiger is roaming the camp.
Face everything and rise. Do it.
You gotta ride it.
Fear is a wave, and you gotta ride it.
I've been on this topic of fear. Something I'm trying to live by now, and again, recognized it. I would say I recognized it about 4 months ago of this idea, and it's not something that's new. It's not original, but the idea of like when something kind of scares you, you probably should do it.
Fair.
Well, I mean, not
with no absolutes in life. Some things.
Not like
sometimes your body's saying, "Hey, bro, I want to make it to 50." So
okay, yes. And what I mean by that is like mentality and mental ideas. Like if you, for instance, perfect example. Again, let's go back to like a very easy entrepreneur type thing.
Yeah.
You have an idea to start a business, but you're scared to make that leap.
Mm-hmm.
Given
quit that job and put all your eggs in that basket to really say, I'm doing this.
Yes, I think that is an indication that you're on the right path, because the resistance there is kind of being like, are you sure? It's almost like it's like that trap. Because then if you live later in life, you might regret that.
Yeah, it's like when I left my 15-year career in architecture.
Yeah,
because I wasn't. I was doing so well in the industry. But every day I would get my cup drained, and I spent the night trying to fill my cup, only to go back to an industry and to a job that didn't give two shits about me. There were loving people I worked with that I enjoyed working with, but when it comes to like the industry and like the service being provided, being a service-based industry, didn't matter what your schedule is. Doesn't matter what habits or what routines you have. This was due yesterday, and we need you to work 3 15 days today. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, you do that for an entire year, and you should be so grateful that we're going to give you a 2% raise.
Yeah.
Oh wow, thank you. Like,
Isn't that all corporate?
there is no scratch your back, scratch my back in corporate. And
Yeah.
I had a beautiful home and I had a nice car. I had all this money and I was miserable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this, I could die tomorrow. This sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing this anymore. My life is about having a human experience. And I'm not going to waste another day working for somebody else that doesn't value me at all. That I see pennies on the dollar of what I'm making you with these projects.
Right.
And I'm like, screw it, I'm out. And it was a really scary, hard decision because I was very comfortable. And then I spent 2 years trying to figure out what that meant and what my direction was. All I knew is I wanted to live my life to the fullest.
Right.
I wanted to work as minimal as possible and live life to the maximum.
Yeah.
And if that means that I got to sell all these toys and get rid of that nice car and sell my loft and do all this stuff, don't care. That's what I'm going to do. If I got to live out of my truck and make it into an overland vehicle, if I have to go back to my parents' house and live there, fine. I don't care. Judge me. I want to live a full life because that's what this is about. My life isn't about working. Yes, being of service, but it's not about a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And that was very scary. And that was really hard. And the 2 years that I figured out, eventually I got to a place to where, I'm teaching architecture online to different schools. And I'm working for a design build company that builds these amazing teardrop geodesic homes called Earth Alchemy. And I'm working concert productions and getting to enjoy this passion of mine, which is overlanding. I've been doing since 2021, traveling the country, and I get to stop in different states and work. Having my own design consulting company that helps people out when they need it, and I just picks up here and there. So having all my eggs in one basket, now I have my eggs in many baskets, and I can live my life on my terms with my freedom. And that isn't what a lot of people do in this world. Doesn't really look. It's different,
Right.
but it's beautiful and I love it. And it allows me to live a huge life. But I had to take that leap of faith.
I want to really touch on taking that leap of faith in the next couple questions, but something I am curious about, let me pose a propositional question here for this. Do you think that you were able to have that availability to make that leap because you had kind of put in the work and you'd gotten yourself to a point?
100%.
So there is a little bit to that where
100%.
like you kind of got to dig in early.
Yeah.
Ish. Because like, for example, and something
I think you can do it no matter what. I don't want to limit anyone to chasing their dreams or the way they want to live.
When you're not financially.
But like, I was doing really well before I took that leap of faith.
Well,
and I had a lot of assets that I could sell to help get me through that 1.5 to 2 years so I wasn't a burden on anybody else financially.
Right.
And I did smoke through a lot of it. But like, I don't care. I made it out. And after 1.5 to 2 years of sticking to my compass, to that magnetizing feeling that I didn't know how to explain, I was searching everywhere. I had all these, dangling carrots in front of my head of like, come back to architecture. We'll give you this great salary. And I'm just like, no, I've been down that road. I know where it leads. I know that industry and the kind of people that work in it, this totem pole toxic mentality. Like I don't want to be a part of that. I'm not completely dogging it, but like the last time I worked at was incredible. It really was. Every other time I've worked at was so toxic.
Yeah.
And like disgusting. It really rubbed me the wrong way. But when you have something on your heart, you have to believe that it's for you. And I had to spend 1.5 to 2 years proving to God, proving to the universe, whatever you want to call it, that I was serious.
Right. And
after a while, things just started working. Opportunity just started finding me. I was living my life how I wanted to. I was saying yes to things that felt good for me to grow spiritually, to grow in my soul and my character. And by being in those situations, I was introduced to a gentleman that we've done tree houses in like Costa Rica, and we're going to do another tree house in South America soon. I got introduced to a guy that,
That's cool.
that Earth Alchemy, that now we're building these conscious community geodesic domes around the country. I then got led to meeting this woman who works for this company called D Skills, and I teach architecture online. Like, things just started clicking.
Yeah.
But I had to like shiny carrot, no shiny offer. Like no, bob and weave. I had to stay in my lane, and I had to say I had partners, family members, girlfriend being like, just go get a job, just do something. And I'm like, no, that's not my truth. And a lot of people didn't understand and got angry at me. And a lot of things happened that I wish wouldn't have, but I stayed on point to what I believed in. And eventually it started working out.
Yeah. Again, going back to that, like, tunnel vision.
You have to.
The universe kind of rewards that energy you're putting forth into it. I've noticed it with just a little bit when I first started this podcast and everything. And again, I can go on tangents all day on this, but a bunch of a learning process doing all of this. But when I first started was 2019 when I started created the Babs Life brand identity, had all the YouTube, I had everything set up like in 2019. When I first started doing it, it's evolved from what it used to be. But I remember like having some guests come on the podcast, and I was like, again, I'm a nobody. I'm like 20 episodes in, like it's me and my buddy on a fold out table talking. And then someone was like, oh, come on. And they have like 20,000, 30,000 followers. And to me at that time, that's like, I'm like, I just get here.
Yeah.
And like, there must be, like, you have no idea. And not that I'm still not there, which is fine. I'm living my life and I'm loving it. But like, I remember at that time, or I shouldn't say I'm remembering at that time, looking back at that time, like 3 years later, I remember being like, oh, wow, that was weird. I was putting a lot of energy into this, and it was kind of just, again, it was just coming back. Like, people were coming on and saying yes. I just didn't think would ever say yes. And that's a very, very dumbed down, simple version of that. But like, even so, like, I'm focused on content, I can see where like people will invite me to, hey, I had opportunities open up to like come to this event and you can come for free. And you just make content. And like, that was the whole goal when I started. It was like, I just want to go to these festivals for free, because I go to 10 of them a year. Yeah. So like, if I can just go for free, then I'm living it. I'm living up. And it's interesting too, when you hit those goals, then you're got a weird moment where you're like, well, now what? Because you're like, do I keep going? Do I stop? Do I pivot? Like, you had this weird, and I'm still going through that. I've in previous podcasts, I've definitely said, I've worked through it. I know what I want now. That's total. Like now I'm like,
everything's always, the only constant is change.
What I mean though is like I felt like I had figured it out. Like, not necessarily, not like everything, but I figured out like what my next step was. And I've come to the realization that's not the case. When my life got flipped upside down, that was not a priority anymore.
Yeah.
And so now I'm again going through that like readjustment period of like, where are we going next? What's the next thing? Because I think it's important to have goals. And again, like when I started the page, the goal was like, let's just go for free. So now I'm at the point where that's occurring, and it's like, originally I had a whole nother plan. Like, literally funny. It's so funny. I could go pull it up upstairs. I can show you I have a booklet and I had it written down.
Good.
And that was in January of this year. I came and I did like a month here in Denver, stayed at a buddy's house, middle of winter. There's like nothing to do. So it was just like, I worked, and then at night I made content, and I thought about my plan and what it was. I remember writing it on a whiteboard, and then once I had it on the whiteboard, I transitioned it and put it in this notebook. And that whole plan is out the fucking window as of like midway through the year.
Yeah, that's like, okay.
No, and it is, and I'm not like knocking it down, but it's just
sure.
It's a funny process to like, you reach that goal.
It's not linear.
It's not linear.
You try to make it linear, but it's just not
ever linear.
You're just going to punches constantly.
Nothing is ever linear, including healing or business. Anything.
Oh God, healing is definitely not linear.
No, and that's unfortunate. I use the word unfortunate a little too loosely, but it's a thing. It's just an odd thing because you have days where like, again, go with that flow. Because you have days where like you're feeling good and you're like, wow, things have been like actually really good lately.
That's why we can enjoy life.
And then
it's not
predictable. The next morning you wake up and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, you're just like you were
yesterday was
so
your-
good
yeah,
yesterday, and today you're just like someone just
and that
like
is-
bury me in the ground. Like,
And that is how it is
oh,
too.
that's so
Like,
funny.
you're like,
It's
oh,
so true.
it's such good. A perfect analogy to that too is like, it's a perfect analogy to how like the ups and downs of life is like for festival goers, because we can relate to that. It's like you have 3 days of this magical experience, whether you do anything or not. Don't even mean that. Like I've gone sober and had a phenomenal time
Oh,
for
so the best
3
time
days,
I've ever had was being sober.
and then you still come home after that sober weekend on Monday morning, and you're like, what the fuck is life?
Yeah,
And you have that low moment because you've had such a high for those 3 days. You have that low moment, even without
that
again.
balance, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's just how it is. And
how it
again,
is.
that's why when people talk about like post festival depression, it hits harder if you've done stuff because you're already at such a high in general for those 3 days doing nothing.
I do think you can mitigate that though.
100%.
You know, like my therapist would always tell me like the beautiful thing about being able to feel really high, you hit these peaks, but that's a beautiful thing. But inevitably the way the psyche works is whatever that high is, you can expect to experience about the same low.
Yeah.
And so like when you're in therapy and you're trying to heal, you're going from this sine curve, you want it to be a little bit more gentle.
Yeah, you want to be in
You
the
don't
middle
want
of
your
the way.
highs to be so high.
Yes.
You don't want to let yourself get so ecstatic. So that way your lows aren't so low. But to a degree, I need to learn that. But I do think that when you can start to truly see life as beautiful, no matter like good and bad, only words make it so. I think Eckhart Tolle said that. When you can just look at things as just being, I think you can go have that amazing weekend at festival, and then you get to a place where even just being at home, you can find the ecstasy there.
Oh, 100%.
Sometimes,
Yeah,
it's not easy, but it is possible.
No, trust, like
and-
you have a night in where you're like, all I'm gonna do now, you get excited for that night. You're like, I'm just gonna go home. I'm gonna take a warm shower. I'm gonna get out of the shower and I'm gonna make a nice steak and I'm gonna watch football and enjoy a
I'm
glass.
just
of
gonna be
sweet tea.
dirty and smash some pizza and not do crap
Yeah, not do
today.
anything.
Like whatever, as long as you're happy in that decision,
Yes,
you know, and just own it.
100%.
A lot of I think our suffering can be mitigated if we just accept and own where we are, you know, and just be like, this is good too. This is okay too.
Yes,
But
when you're in that, it's so much more difficult when you're in that low or going through a
oh
sadness.
yeah,
time
you can't see out of it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
all you see.
I've always said this analogy because I love it, and maybe it's because I'm Floridian or something. But like they always talk about, like when you're in the storm, you can't see the end. You just don't. You can't.
Right.
And you can sometimes you can't even see what, like we've talked. Circling back, like we've talked about how sometimes you need to focus on like the good things you have in life. I got this. I got this. I got that, and try to focus on those. But when sometimes the storm is just so much, you can't see those things. But someone on the outside, and that's when sometimes you do need help, whether it's through a therapist or for a friend, a family.
Yeah, for
someone on
sure.
the outside
That
the storm
lifeline, you know.
can see in, right?
Yeah.
People, right? And then like again, drawing it into like a real life thing. Like the hurricanes just hit Florida.
Yeah.
My family was there. I've been in hurricanes before. This was the first time, and I'm not trying to make it about me because it's not, but like it was the first time where I've been away from them during a bad hurricane, and I'm just out on the outside watching, and they're like, it's this and that, and I'm out of it. I'm completely removed in a weird way because I can't even go visit them. I mean, I could fly back, but I can't. Like in previous years, I could just drive home.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta go help my family. I can just drive home. I can't do that anymore.
Right.
And that's a weird thing. And again, back to that like more spiritual side of things, like someone around you can see your pain and your storm, and they might need to be the one on the outside to help you in because you just can't. You're in that when your first hits, heartbreak, death of a family member, death of a close friend, and there's a bad medical news, whatever it is. When it first hits you,
You need a support.
you
team.
need a support system.
Yeah, and
like,
you need solids in your life, you know.
Yeah.
And I've definitely, I went on like a 5-year journey. You're always like, as they say, like the teacher is always quiet during the test. So and relationships are when we get tested. You know, we're not in a relationship, we're usually like growing and learning and we're climbing, and then we get into a relationship, teacher goes quiet, and it's okay, how much have you learned? You know, relationships are amazing mirrors to say, okay, what have you learned? Who are you?
Yeah.
And they're amazing teachers. And, you know, I was single for like 5 years and was like doing a lot of work, and, you know, got into a relationship for like a year and a half and definitely felt myself plateau, definitely kind of got into a limbo. Was in kind of one of the most confusing time periods of my life, which is when I quit my architecture job and tried to reinvent myself. So there was also this period of like, there was a huge version of me that was dying.
Right.
Like I was becoming something new and I didn't know how to handle that, and neither did my partner. And I really did not show up how I could have.
Right.
But there was this like death occurring to me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in my masculine, I wasn't in my feminine. I was like in my I was just in limbo. And like my poor partner had to carry both of it, and it kind of like, you know, it broke us.
Yeah.
And but I also felt that I was plateauing, that I was just, I lost that ness about me. I don't know, that was so good and driving me.
Yes.
And then the past 8 months that I've been out of that relationship has been incredibly hard. And I've been like finding myself again and having a ton of accountability and being like, wow, bro, like drop the ball there.
I'm going through that same thing right now.
You know, and thank God during the past 3-4 years have found, you know, and I'm including you in this, a beautiful family that is filled with amazing people. You know, my buddy Amar, my buddy Lucas and his wife Monique, my buddy Caleb and Tasha, different family members like that have been absolutely pivotal in my healing. My friend Rachel, like the amount of support and abundance that I have been given in the hardest 8 months of my life, I can't ignore. And it's kept me going, it's kept me afloat, and it's reminded me that like, although events are unfortunate how they unfold, again, there's always something greater, there's always something good that can come from it if you decide to hold the mirror up and to learn and grow and keep pushing forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know for me, I could tell you exactly what it is, and I've been trying my hardest to like live by that, because I'm like, that's something I know for the next relationship that I ever have. I almost said that made me laugh. The next relationship, I do plan to date again.
I'm not sure if I will,
but
I might just be out of the game forever.
But I know that whatever that next thing is, and actually, to be fair, it isn't just in a romantic sense. It's in any relationship.
Absolutely.
I want to carry that going forward.
Yeah.
And it's something I want to work on and be more, and I want that to be more a part of me. Because the other thing too is I recognize that it was a part of me, and I subconsciously, but then eventually consciously decided to close that off.
Yeah.
And it was not intentional. It wasn't malicious. It was more self-protecting.
Yeah.
But again, as we circle back, your fears become your reality once you let them take hold.
Yeah.
I let it take
100%.
hold. So,
and then you just, like you said, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I don't want to lose this person. But then like you start closing off, or you start not speaking your truth.
Yeah.
Or you stop being vulnerable. There's something missing. You're trying to find it out here instead of knowing that you can find it in this person and in this relationship, but you just went the wrong way.
Yeah. 100%.
And it's just like, fuck.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, for real.
But find the lesson.
Find the lesson. You find the lesson. You hopefully move forward. No, we are. And then it's funny, you said something about your support system, and it just made me think of this. I personally, I want to say 100%, there are certain friends and people that will step up during those hard times. And none of them in my life have ever asked, they never asked for anything. They're just here for me. They've been there for me.
They love you.
They love you. Right.
They
Perfect way
want
of
the
putting
best
it.
for you.
And not that, and vice versa, I would do the same for them. And then not only have I had this emotional thing occur in my life, I've also had some stuff out of that, such as, moving across the country, brand new, my job letting us go.
Oh yeah, when it rains, it fucking pours.
Oh,
right? It's never like, oh, here, like you only can handle this much for only this much. It's like, oh, you can only handle a teaspoon. Well, I got a gallon for you, so welcome to the shower.
It was literally like that. Like I was just in the rain and on the ground getting poured on.
Yeah.
But during this time, crazy enough, it happened last week where I was like, because I've had some friends that have just, even some friends I didn't expect to really just be there and help out in
Amen.
a certain way. That I personally have decided, like, I'm keeping a list of even the smallest things that these individuals and people in my life have done.
Good.
So that one, don't forget.
It's good to
because it's
remember.
very easy to forget.
Yeah, it is.
And two, I want to make sure that when I come out of this and my rise is back up and I'm back up, I want them to not only share those good moments with me, but I want to create good moments for them.
Yeah, you want to be very aware and conscious and be reciprocal.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
love.
I've had friends help again, not just in an emotional sense of like being there for me, but just even in like a financial sense and not even like, hey, I need money for this, but just like they know what's going on and they're like, no, like I'll buy that concert ticket. I want you to come. Like just small things like that where it's like,
let me take you out. Yeah.
You for lunch, you're on the list. Like literally like just stuff like that. And I don't know, it's just something that's been hitting me lately. Is like, wow, I've had some really good friends, and some friends that I knew they were friends, but I never knew that they would help out the way they have.
Yeah.
Or they stepped up the way they have. And even some that like, perfect example that comes to mind is I had, when things were very up in the air and I was deciding if I was staying in Tampa or moving here out to Denver, which funny enough, I don't think anyone that would even know I moved to Denver. So it's me mentioning it for the first time.
Life's in Denver,
But,
by the way.
When that occurred, I had already promised two friends of mine that like I would move into a place with them. And so they had already already had the house. They were already there. I was supposed to move in July. Everything got flipped upside down and this presented itself. And I personally was like, I think I need a change. I've been here all my life. I moved away, I came back, and then things just kind of went crazy. And I was like, I think I just need a change. And here's X, Y, Z. And so one night I got a hold of them both and said, hey, let's go meet somewhere. And they met me and I told them the situation. This is what I'm debating. I go, I don't know what I'm going to do, but this is what I'm thinking. And I'll know literally within like a week and a half. And they were both like, oh, and they were like, well, like surprisingly, both of them were like, man, if we were in your shoes, you should go. Like, we know your situation. We know what you want to do. We know what this means for the EDM community and career stuff you might want to do. You should go and we'll figure it out. And that just was like again, I worried about talking to them about it because
they're here being an advocate for you and what's best for you. Yes. And they're not thinking about their needs and what may be a problem or this, that. They're just like, yeah, man, like you got to do this. You got to do it.
And I told them, I was like, hey, again, and this is part of like the financial thing of it too. I was like, well, listen, I'll still pay like the first month and stuff just to make sure you guys are all, you get off on your right foot. That way you're not like getting down in money, and we'll go from there. And they were super, super receptive of that. They were like, well, thank you for meeting us halfway. We would never expect that. Like, and it was just, again, like them encouraging me made me feel like I should do this and this for them. And again, it just was a feeling of like, wow, I have a support system that's there and wasn't expecting from some of these guys and friends in life.
That must have felt really good.
It did. It also
it's a
just
good reminder.
like it's something you get perfect. Exactly. Took the words out of my mouth. Like it's a reminder that like, hey, you got, and sometimes you need that when you're in the trenches. Like,
For
hey,
sure.
I got, not that you're a friend, like not to make an analogy, like a war analogy, but like they're in there with you in a sense.
I mean, let me tell you what, man. Healing in life can freaking feel like a battlefield sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can feel like war, you know, and you have to have those people that you can trust in your foxhole, you know, and the only way you can figure that out is by going through things and seeing who shows up for you.
Yes.
And it's amazing how, like, I always struggled with feeling unworthy to receive the support.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been learning, you know, over the past like couple years, 5 years or so, how to really like accept what's being given to me.
Yeah.
And like I am a loving person and like be able to like really like say that and believe it. And that I deserve it. Because it's like I was actually thinking about this like 2 days ago. I was like laying on the floor with my feet up, like nursing all my brokenness from my skydiving accident. And I was just thinking of like just all the support that I've been given in the last 8 months and the support I've been given here in Denver. So I've, you know, came here to hang out for like a couple days and it's been like 3 weeks or like 4 weeks. I just can't leave, you know. I just love it here. And just having so many people being like, you can stay with me, or if you need something, let me know, or hey, I would like to see you. And sometimes we have to, it's easy to not think you have something, or you get those negative voices in your head. Sometimes you just gotta be like, yo, shut up. Like, look at all of this around me. See what they see, you know? And it's just, in like the hardest moment, the hardest time of my life in the past 5-6 years, I have never been so supported and taken care of by both my friends, my family, and God.
Yeah.
It's absolutely unbelievable. And being able to recognize that with gratitude keeps me going. You know, before I go to bed, I always like sit there and speak out a list. Like, what did I do good today? What am I grateful for today? That's how I end every night. So that way, that's the last thought in my mind. That's what gets permeated in my subconscious when I go to bed. I always make sure I end the night with gratitude and like trying to think, okay, what I want to do today that I actually was able to do, and then frame it in a way to, you know, give myself a pat on the back, you know, and then I wake up in the morning and I'll say, what am I going to do today? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then after I go through it, I have this like manifestation talk to myself, be like, look, dude, like you said, you're going to do all these things. You did it. Like, awesome. You manifested that. I don't care if it's a line of crap. That's what I'm saying to myself.
I wrote that down, by the way. I apologize. I was like, that was really
no, that's good.
I needed to do because I found too, and I wonder if you can relate to this. I've been journaling more, which is
super important. Yeah,
I don't think enough people do
so many books filled with thoughts.
Yeah, I don't think enough people do it. It's a good outlet. It's better than you just rehashing the same thing in your own head every day.
Yeah,
because that's something I did in the past. I'm sure if I journaled those fears and stuff out, I might have come to a realization of like, I should probably just talk about this. But like instead I was like cycling through them and then
you gotta give them a place.
Distracting myself.
You gotta give them a place
to give you trouble.
Well, I wanted to like cross my legs and sit back a little bit.
Yeah,
so I gotta bring it a little closer. But that's okay. You gotta give them a place to go.
Yeah.
You gotta give them a place to sleep. You know, and I remember when we went on that sunset hike. Yeah. You know, last weekend I told you about something journaling. I like to share it here.
Cool.
I have a very special book. It's called my D-Day book. And it's when I am as self-deprecating as I can be. When I am super depressed and I got not a single good thing to say about myself.
Does D-Day stand for Depressed Day?
Yeah. Sorry. Depressed Day,
D-Day. On the
light bulb. Yeah, real original.
No, it's funny because I was thinking D-Day is in like, this is the day I'm gonna, like D-Day with the war was like, this is the day we're gonna attack this. That's what I thought you. Well, I guess it kind of double meaning, like I'm gonna attack it today.
You could look at it and have like this it is only filled with my meanest, darkest insecurities.
Okay.
However, when I write in that journal, I skip 2 lines. Every time I write something, I skip 2 lines. When I'm having a really bad day, I got nothing. I feel like I don't belong. I write my feelings out as I feel them. Sometimes it's pretty gross and disgusting. But I give 2 spaces. And so lines skip 2, line again, and I write until I've let it out enough to where I can soften. I may close the book, wait a day, or if that process was enough for me to come back to center, then I go back to where I started and I start reading what I wrote. And I use those 2 lines of space to give myself love and to actually look at what I said with compassion and love and more truth and honesty. You know, oh, you're a piece of shit. You're never going to find love. You know, that's not true.
That's fine.
But I know you're hurting right now, Christopher. Right. You know, you did this and blah, 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 blah. That's a lie.
Yeah.
You know better. You're just hurting right now. And I'll go back and I'll re-talk to myself in those lines and I'll write something loving and compassionate under it. And it's my way of allowing myself to fully express and honor my feelings. But I don't want those to be the last thing that's getting programmed into here. I'm going to let the last thing be love.
Yeah.
Last is going to be love. And then I'll go through and I'll write those answers underneath. And then at the very end, I always write, it's like that Apono Opono, that like Hawaiian like prayer of like being like, thank you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you. Nice.
I'm so touching. I spit my drink out.
You know, and that's how I end it, you know. Thank you, Christopher, for being able to fully express yourself. You know, I'm sorry you did these things, or I'm sorry you're feeling this way. You know, please forgive me for having to express myself in this way. Please forgive me for saying these negative things to myself.
Yeah.
I love you. I love this version of you. I love every version of you. I love everything about you, good or bad. Words only make it so, brother.
Right.
And it brings me to a softer place, a more neutral place. And I close that book and I'm usually pretty good to go. Like I said, maybe hours later, a day later, whatever, but I always come back and revisit it. And that helps a ton. You know, it really helps a ton, especially when I go back and read them like years later or months later. And I'm just like, wow, bud. You were in it.
Yeah, for real. I don't go back and read my journals too much. At least not the ones right now.
There's some you'll find some nuggets in there.
There's some that I can think of that I have like more bookmarks, but generally I don't. But on building on what you were just saying, I have started to end every journal session with something very similar. Whether it's because sometimes the journals could be more of a rant. Sometimes it could be me saying I had a better day today. Some days it could just be me just splatting, you know, feelings out and stuff. But I have tried every time, starting about 2 weeks ago, every time I journal, I try to end it with, hey, this is happening. It's going on. Things are happening. It's fine. You got a lot going for you. You got to remember what your goals are, where you're going, what you want to do. Love yourself. And then I always specifically say, like, love yourself, because right now you're the only one that's going to pick yourself up and really love you the way you need to be loved. And then I end it and I say,
gives me goosebumps.
And then I literally write, I go, love you. I sign my name. That's the end of the letter.
Yeah, dude, sweet.
Like a letter to myself.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like ending it like that because again, it's a little form of like self-gratitude, self-love that I need to work on more, because again, like sometimes in those journals, I'm hard on myself. Like, I did this, you did that. Oh, what's happening with this? And then at the end of it, it's like, let all that out. All right. Now we love ourselves. We're grateful. Let's get moving on the other stuff that we need to do.
It's amazing what a kind word to yourself will do. Like I remember, maybe like 10 years ago, I was reading this article about how they were saying like with every negative thing you say to yourself, it takes like 15 positive things to cognitively rewrite that. Your brain is programmed to respond stronger to negativity or to fear than kindness, because it's like you're always trying to like survive that fight or flight mode,
Yeah.
So when something's really bad, it like locks in right away, versus something kind, it takes a little bit of time.
Interesting.
And something that I've been practicing too, especially when I'm really feeling it, I try to say 5 positive things about myself in the morning and at night before I go to bed. Or if I'm in the bathroom, or if I pass a mirror and there's no one around that's going to think I'm completely a lunatic, I'll sit there and I'll talk to myself in the mirror, and I'll pep talk myself up like crazy.
Yeah.
And I will say a lot of beautiful things, and I'll be really kind to myself. And it makes a big difference, being your own advocate, being kind to yourself.
100%.
This is so important. And anything just to try to tip that scale back into a more loving place.
Yes, 100%. When we talk about healing journeys and how they're more individual, I'm always like getting people's opinions on this, but like I can only speak for myself, I guess I should say.
Always, yeah.
So let me just say what I like on my healing journey. I can't picture myself like, I can picture people around me helping, but like, I don't know, when I'm like all of a sudden get into these like healing things where I'm like, I don't know if like, I just kind of like push everything else to the side. Like, I guess I'm butchering this right now, but
That's
like,
all right.
I'm focusing specifically like on me and what I got going on.
You're supposed to.
And what I want to go
You're supposed
forward.
to be selfish.
Yes, thank you.
You're supposed to be
I don't know
selfish
why I
when
couldn't
you're
remember the
healing.
word selfish. Yeah. I'm a bit more selfish without, again, I think I said this the other day. Like, you can be selfish without being a dick. But like,
Yeah.
For real. Like, I'm taking time to myself, and I'm like,
Especially if you're a people pleaser, you're over empathetic to people. You tend to like worry about their needs and yours when you're trying to heal. No, dude, you just need to focus on you.
yeah. Because in a weird way, like, as much as you want to probably help others, and I still do, and don't get me wrong, but like, I almost, in a selfish way, which again I think is necessary, it's like I can't really fully take care of me if I'm taking care
Your
or
battery
worried
is
about
drained,
Yeah.
Too much is pulling on it, and right now your body needs all of your battery for itself.
Definitely.
And that's an act of self-love. And people that care about you aren't going to get mad at you for it. One of my favorite lines from Dr. Seuss: "Those that matter don't mind, and those that mind don't matter." Your friends are going to know that you're going through shit, and you're trying to take care of you, and they know that you're going to disappear for a little while, and that you're not going to be around, and that you're not going to be available. They're not going to take it personal.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking about you, they care about you. Now you're saying, this is what you got to do to heal. And we got to hone in. We have too much on our plate. We got to minimize it. We only can handle so much.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, perfect. That sums up exactly what I was trying to say.
It's totally okay to be selfish when you're healing. But like you said, but don't be cruel to other people, you can, it's not good vibes only. It's real vibes only. And that's good. And that's ups and downs, but don't be a dick.
Yeah. 100%.
Don't be a dick to people.
100%. We're coming up on like, we're deep in this. We'll go for a little bit longer, but before we call it an end, I wanted to know a little bit about the nomadic lifestyle. So we're going to pivot, and maybe not as deep on this, but so you've been doing the kind of nomadic lifestyle, and hopefully I'm not meaning any offense by phrasing it like that.
No,
but
not at all. You can
for
say whatever you want.
2 years?
I'm responsible for getting offended if I get offended. So like, you know, like I can't be mad at you if I get offended. Like this is my body, this is my mind.
Tell
Like,
society that, because apparently it's the opposite way right now. But I didn't say that. I didn't want to offend anyone with that.
no,
but,
yeah.
But like, but how? So you've been doing it now for what, like 2 years?
Since COVID, 2021.
3,
Yeah.
3.5.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, I didn't realize it was that long. Well, let's dive into this because I'm so curious about it. I've said this to you when we were hanging out the other day, but like personally, I think I could do like a cool month to 3 months trip,
But not 6.
but I don't think I could do a full year or 3 years. So I really applaud it. Now I know, like you've said, you've got friends across the country, you've got family, and that is a nice way to like
So
break
supportive.
that up.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Wash some clothes, take a shower.
Right.
You know, there's other ways to bathe yourself besides the shower, believe it or not. Shout out to like Love's gas station or Jay's. You guys got dope ass showers. It's only $15 and it's unlimited hot water. So like sometimes you just gotta pull the trigger on one of those and just go have yourself a time, with the trucker boys.
I love it. That's great. But so for someone like me, casual admirer of the lifestyle, thinks they could do it, probably
Romanticizing it a little bit.
yeah, that's the perfect, yes, romanticizing it. What advice out there do you have for some that are maybe thinking about making the dive into that lifestyle and yeah, any tips that you could give them? Because I mean, again, this is something I barely know about. Again, I see it on a Instagram post, the guy with his van, and he wakes up and he's out in the Grand Canyon. There's just a nice, beautiful sunrise, and you're like, that doesn't look too bad. But to each his own. And again, I definitely know. I romanticize it. I don't think I could do it.
It's pretty beautiful. I have learned so much about myself being this nomad for 3.5 years because you spend a lot of time alone. But you're not lonely per se. Sometimes I get lonely, and I think it was Christopher McCullen, Into the Wild, that says, is happiness real if it's not shared? And to a degree, I concur with that, but I also disagree with it as well, because I do think you can experience things on your own and it can be really beautiful, and we're never that alone.
True.
But like when I did my 6-month trip around the country, I did like 17 states, 25,000 miles. You do wish sometimes that there could be someone there to just be a witness to all your growth and to all the adventure, and just to have the courage to just step outside of the matrix and really figure out what life's about. So I guess my first question would be, why do you want to do it? And there's no wrong answer to that.
But know why. Yeah.
But know why you're doing it and what you're seeking, because it's just nice to have intentions in life. Mm-hmm. It makes everything a little bit sweeter. And I really want to find Christopher in all of my pain. And I have my friends in my hometown of Ortonville. I got my Detroit friends. I got my friends in North Carolina. I got my Colorado friends. I have my friends from Lawrence Tech University. And each one of those, you're kind of like this different archetype. Yes. I got Christopher, Christopher with my family. I got CD with my country boys. I got Cowboy with my Detroit friends. I got C-Lin, or Big Moose. And that's like my high school boys. Like, I have all these like different nicknames, and all these people see me differently. Yeah. And I am different around them. I'm not saying I'm fake, but like you kind of just fall into certain patterns around certain people. And one of the things I love the most about the overlanding is no one knows me. So I don't have to like subconsciously fall into a construct. Right. Every time someone meets me, I get to be whoever I want to be at my core without having to put on a costume or a smile or be this or be that. Yeah. And I wanted to have a majority of my time in that space so I could figure out who Christopher was. Absolutely. That was my intention. I know that we're all born as masterpieces. And then as we go through life and things happen to us, and there's societal norms. We kind of get this like clay packed on us. It's like reverse David, you know, like we are the statue of David.
Right.
And then as we go through life, we just turn this big chunky block of marble
Yeah.
that, you know, can't freaking make it through a doorway.
Right.
And it's about unpacking that and revealing the masterpiece within that was always you. And I wanted to find him again, especially after my sexual abuse, especially after my trauma. And I wanted to be like, who was that happy little boy that I knew, and how can I welcome him into my adult life? So first, intention. Second thing is kind of how do you want to overland? What luxuries do you want to have? What things can you give up on? Some people do the van life.
Yeah.
I have a Toyota Tacoma, and it's a V6. It's the TRD Pro off-road. I have a rugged bound Penthouse XLT clamshell camper on the top. I have a bed box I built out. It's got all my food and equipment, gear, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's how I wanted to do it. I'm leaning to a new rig, but that's how I chose to do it, so I can really get into some pretty hairy spots. There are some areas I've been into that I will never go again because it was by the grace of God that I got out. So like thinking how you want to do this. Like when I did my first 6-month trip, I said, I don't want to stay at a single designated camping spot. I don't want to sleep at a single truck stop. Every single night I sleep, I'm going to be on BLM, Bureau of Land Management, free land, in the woods, away from people. And I did that 99.9% successful.
How
There was
beautiful
one
is that?
time I was driving to Texas and I just wanted to get to my buddies. And I'm like, I'm just pulling over at this rest stop and I'm going to sleep for a few hours. It was incredible. You know, like the whole point of this was to get into nature and to disconnect and refine myself and reconnect with nature. Every lake or stream I passed, I'd pull my car off and I'd go jump in it. Every time, every sunset and sunrise, I'd pull my truck over and I'd sit on my hood and I'd sit and enjoy it. You know, like I got deep in canyon lands of Utah and in the sequoias in California and checking out hot springs in Idaho, and all went down to the bayous of Florida and Louisiana and Alabama and all this. Like I wanted to see, I knew our country is beautiful, but I really wanted to experience it all.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. It's like driving from the East Coast to the West Coast, on and up, but it's like going through.
Yeah. America is quite bizarre in that nature that we
Yeah,
are
I can only
very,
imagine sectors like coming from the East Coast to getting to California, just like going through like the Appalachians to like the flat prairies or like the gorge area, the mountains, and you hit these the mountains of Colorado and Utah and all that, only to get to a freaking desert that's trying to kill you every day, or trying to stab you or poison you, to then get to these trees where you're like, where's the dinosaurs? You know, and then all of a sudden get into more canyons and then this beautiful ocean. Like it's just like, wow.
right.
There's just like
Big and vast. Our country is just insane. Yeah.
And all the beautiful people I met along the way. You meet such incredible people. You hear, I could tell stories for days, just sitting with some old guy on a bench, you know, and hearing stories, or helping some woman across the street, and then she sits and talks to you about life and love and heartbreak.
I think we're gonna have to do a full episode on just your nomadic stories. Not to cut you off here, but yeah, we'll do a part 3. Yeah, you get why people are angry, and you get
Literally everywhere. They're kind of ignorant and they don't know any better because they didn't do that. And like, I'm so blessed that you're out enjoying nature, but like, the ground is in a trash can.
yeah,
Like, that was one thing that really started getting under my skin, is everywhere I went, there's trash. I was like, what is wrong with people? But I had to give them grace because they didn't know. And I do know. So I started hiking with a trash can. I said, pick it up myself. Be the change you want to see in the world.
yeah.
And
Starts with you.
there were things that break in the truck along the way to learn how to fix it. You have to get some sense of the P.O. box and Moab because like you need it, you know, or you don't stick your awning down one day because you're in the desert, it's not windy, and you come back and it's folded over your truck.
Oh no.
You know, or you get a flat
So you're like, then you know, like I have to stake it every time.
Yeah, like, it's just there's so much beauty that you learn, and so figuring out your rig and what you want to do.
Yep.
And then after that, there's a long, extensive process of making like, what am I taking with me?
Okay.
What gear am I going to need?
Yeah. What am I getting rid of? What am I trashing? What am I selling?
I sold, in order to do this, I came to the realization that like I can't live 5 different lives.
Right.
I only want to live one. So I sold my crotch rocket. I sold my 4-wheeler. I sold my snowmobile. I got rid of so much. I got rid of my loft in downtown Detroit. You know, I got rid of my sports car and I bought my Tacoma. You know, I was like, if I don't have the money, I'm either going to work for it or I'm going to sell something because like, I can't live these multiple lives.
Right.
I want this one. And one day when I'm done with this,
Yeah.
and I sold.
It's not like they're going away.
Yeah.
It's a very wise realization because I think most of us, we all want, well, we do, we all want things. Don't disagree with that. Not hating on that. But you do have this,
Love Hornets.
but like everyone loves Florida. Yeah. Oh my God. Moving out here, I just left so much. Like it was wild to me. It was. Yeah.
You give yourself, life is art.
Yeah.
You're giving yourself to express yourself differently with your clothes, express yourself differently in what you chase in the world, and what you go after. And there's always going to be compromise. You can't have it all you're not supposed to.
Right.
So, you know, there was a ton, I mean, 6 months to a year of me just planning, researching, what am I going to need to do this? And just keep figuring that out while I'm building stuff, building a source to my truck, you know, figuring out, making a bed box for my food, my kitchen stuff. You know, you have your tools, your equipment, if your truck breaks down, then you're going to be all across the country, so you need cold gear and warm gear.
Yeah.
You know, you have your snacks, you have your tools, and the one thing that I think my biggest advice I like to give people, because I prepare so intensely, I tend to over-prepare. You're never that far from the store.
Okay.
Even if you get out in the sticks, you can go to the store and get something.
Gotcha.
And I was so prepared for every situation. But they say it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. But that being said, you can decide to what degree do you want to be minimal.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, know that we do live in the 21st century. And if you need something,
It's probably there.
Go to Tractor Supply.
Yeah.
Go to Home Depot. You can find it and figure it out. You know, like that thing's break, you need a fuse or that. You can do it. So don't get too much in your head about repairing, but you do have to take it seriously. And I had a general plan of where I want to go and what I want to experience, but I also just kind of let the flow and just kind of.
I think that's the best part. The fact that if you like, I think that's the best part. I think that's maybe what's most appealing is like you can kind of do whatever you want and go wherever you want. And like,
so free the past 3 years. Like, I know it doesn't resonate with everyone, and I know, you know, it's not easy for a relationship. It's not the most secure container for the feminine to exist, but I'm so happy and so proud. And I have so much wealth in the way I live my life. I don't have a lot, but I can support myself, and I can do it without burdening anyone.
yeah.
And the past 3.5 years, I've really been able to live, and that's what I believe life is about. You know, life is about minimizing unnecessary suffering for myself and for others. That's number one for me. Minimizing unnecessary suffering, not suffering, unnecessary suffering. And the second one is I'm sorry, I'm not here to work. I'm here to live. So how can I work the minimum to live the maximum? Because I am a soul having a human experience. I am here to learn and to grow, to have fun. And I've always been having fun.
Right.
And I'm really happy and excited about that. I've really done a lot in the past 2.5 years, and because of that truck out there, which is Ian's point boy, brother in arms, I've been able to really, really live a very special, magical life. And I know everyone's path is different. No one's way is right or wrong. It's just different.
Mhm.
But if I could, I would love it if everyone had the opportunity to do this for a year, because it's so special. And I see so many people that just, they're passionate, but they're just like, they're grinding all day and they're miserable. Or they're grinding for what they love and they're passionate, but they're waking up in stress and anxiety every freaking day because they kind of have to pay their bills or they gotta do this or that. And you're just like, I commend them so much because you're being passionate and driven, you're doing so well, but also like, are you living to the max? And maybe you don't need to live to the max. Maybe you're good at 30% of your weekly time living. Everything I've been through in life, 30% is not enough.
Yeah, you hit on something super big there that I always harp on too, and I think a lot of us, I've been guilty of it at times too. But like, I think majority of people are, like you kind of said, like they're working to live almost. You know, they're like or they're perfect example is like the person that works, makes a good living, has a good job, but they blow all their money because they're not happy and they don't realize it. So they're spending their money on going out, on food. They think they are by,
They have this appetite inside them where it's never enough.
yeah,
No matter how many houses you have, how many cars you have, how big your bank account is, how awesome business, it's never enough. And I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, but I think it deserves a microscope to say why.
yeah, 100%, 100%. This is a good segue into the last thing here, if we approach the 2 hour mark. But how do you, which you've given us a ton of insight, so I think you'll be able to hit this home pretty easy. But I always ask every guest this, theme of the podcast, as you know. So how do you live yourself for every day?
How do I live myself every day?
Yeah, how do you live for yourself every day?
Um, by doing exactly what I'm doing and what we've talked about here. Every day is different. I'm being soft on myself.
Yeah,
Crying when I need to cry. Kicking myself in the ass when I need to get up and let it flow. I am not working for the man, I'm working for Christopher. And I'm finding ways to make just enough money to do what I'm passionate about, but travel the world and experience life and live on my terms. And I'm doing that by being honest with myself, putting a lot of time and energy into myself, not putting boxes around my dreams or how I'm going to make money or how I'm going to do this or that. I'm living fearlessly and knowing that it's on my heart. And it's been really tough, but like, as hard as it is sometimes for me to live the life I'm living, because it's just so not normal. I feel like I'm doing something wrong. The past 2.5 years, I have been living myself.
yeah,
And that started with me just unequivocally not what doesn't vibe with me.
yeah,
And stress and having to go work for somebody else. If it makes you happy, like cool, sweet. But like, I want you to know if you want more in life, just go get it.
yeah. It's there.
It'll take sacrifices, but just go do it. And you'll find a way. How deep do you want to love? How deep do you want to experience this life? Everything's circumstantial, but it just starts with you believing in yourself. And I didn't realize when I started this in 21 that it'd be 3.5 years later.
Right.
But despite the things I don't have that I wish I did, I'm so freaking happy. And I love that I get the freedom to travel this country and see my friends more than once a year at a concert. Several times a year, I can go see family and friends and loved ones because I'm in a truck and no one gets to tell me no. I'm a rebel at heart. If you couldn't tell, I'm a giant rebel. What to do. And I love that everything I do in this life are on my freaking terms. That's how I live my life at fullest, on my freaking terms. Period.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me what to do. You can't tell me when I have to be in the office. You can't tell me when I'm going to start work and when I'm going to end work. It's on me and I decide. But that also means that if things ain't going my way and I can't pay for this or I can't do this, well then...
Yeah, there's a lot of accountability in that. Living life on my terms creates a lot of self-accountability, which is awesome. I love it.
So, it is... One more thing I want to say that really changed my life.
Go for it.
Was this thing called the Pro U podcast, Jay Dieters.
Okay.
It changed my life. And the one thing that he said all the time, him and I used to be very, very close, but had some trust issues that kind of broke us apart, which I was really sad about because he was such a deep mentor to me. And I let him down. And as a mentor, he kind of failed to give me grace. That's okay. I miss him terribly. We used to be very close. But he always would say, deem yourself worthy. Run your own race. Deem yourself worthy. Live Pro U. My life place is Pro U. Like it changed my freaking life. He's been doing this podcast for 6-7 years, maybe longer. I just happened to randomly find it one day. And honestly, that man saved me. And he taught me the path of Pro U and deeming yourself worthy. And there's nothing that's on your heart. You may make sacrifices, but I promise you, your soul's going to reward you beyond measure. And you're just going to grow beyond measure.
I love that. I love that we're going to end on that good note. I don't even want to say anymore because that's a great note to end on. We were approaching the 2-hour mark. I think this is honestly one of the longest podcasts I've done. I think I've only had maybe one other that got this long. But just, dude, you are a perfect embodiment for this podcast. I love that we really dove deep on this too. Started out silly with my parking predicament, got really into it, which is what I was hoping for. And
I'll go as deep as you want.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great way to live by. Again, very much love that we got to go deep on this. I think there's a lot of information that hopefully somebody out there pulls some wisdom out of from you or what I had said. But thank you so much for your time and coming out on here. I absolutely love this episode. We'll make sure to get your socials into the description, but tell everyone where they can follow you and your travels.
So, at the real Cowboy Jesus.
I love it. It's going to be in the bio anyway, so you might as well say it.
At the real Cowboy Jesus is my Instagram where my page is all my professional work and my stories are just all the little fun things.
Yeah.
I really don't have any other platform I would hang out on. I have a TikTok. It might also be at the real Cowboy Jesus. That one's a little more like the TikTok I just started recently, and that's more geared towards like these deep conversations about healing and growth and trauma and pain.
Yeah.
Instagram's kind of like a full-blown picture, but the TikTok is really about like the nitty-gritty deep stuff.
Ooh, I got some social media ideas for you, so we should discuss this after.
I've made a lot of videos that I've been on YouTube. I just haven't got to do that. So I'm not on Facebook really. I have a few friends, but yeah, you can look me up on Instagram and check me out. And if anything has resonated here, or if you can relate to any trauma or anything, like please feel free to reach out to me. Pain knows pain, and I'm here to help. space for you and do my best.
All right. Love you, man. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Bye, everybody. Peace.